Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, member of the Senate Foreign Relations and Homeland Security Committee. And he's going to weigh in not only on the border crisis, Iraq, but also the status of his lawsuit against Obamacare. Then the Malzberg panel, criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson and radio host and author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson, will be here. Then Mary Matlin, Republican political consultant. She will join us to discuss everything from the border crisis to the GOP convention being granted to the city of Cleveland. Now, I don't know if LeBron James is going to be more inclined to go back to Cleveland now that they're going to have the Republican presidential convention in the summer of 2016. You got all that? Give me 5 and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the Steve Malzberg Show. So much going on, a Senate hearing on the border crisis. Also, we have the war in the Middle East. I call it a war. It may not be declared as such, but when rockets are falling into one country and that country is defending itself by firing back at a breakneck pace, I call that a war. We also have news on our brave Marine being held in Mexico. Unfortunately, well, he had a court date yesterday. The unfortunate part of it is he's still being held in a Mexican jail. He was ordered held, and it is just outrageous to me. The president, while he should have went down to the border to address this crisis, while he was down on the border, he also should have used that time on the border to demand the release of Sergeant Tamarisi. Unfortunately, that release does not appear to be forthcoming, and the judge ordered him to remain held. They could have let him out of jail. They could have put him under some kind of house arrest. Joining us now, though, is Ron Johnson. I want the senator and everybody to hear, though, what John Boehner had to say earlier today. Let's watch.
Do you think you have to approve this funding?
Listen, this is a problem of the president's own making. He's been president for 5.5 years. When's he going to take responsibility for something?
All right. We welcome in Senator Ron Johnson. And Senator, welcome back, sir.
Well, Steve, how you doing?
I'm fine. So you heard what John Boehner had to say. I know there was a Senate hearing today on the situation down on the border. What is the latest in your view, and is the president going to get the almost $4 billion now that he's asking for?
Well, what I've been trying to do, and we had a hearing in Homeland Security Committee yesterday, I've been trying to put the funding request into perspective. What the president is looking for is $3,700 million to basically, attract more people here. And that's always been my problem is the way you secure the border is you reduce or eliminate the incentives for illegal crossing. When we basically bring people in here, or when people come in here illegally and then we let them stay indefinitely, that's an incentive for them to come. When the Senate passes a comprehensive immigration reform bill, it has $262 billion of welfare benefits for non-U.S. citizens. That's an incentive for people to come. So what we need to do is we need to stop incentivizing people to come. And the point I made in the hearing yesterday is, in a very humane and safe manner, if we would just take those people, put them in a hotel room, let them clean themselves up, feed them, and then put them on a plane and return them to their country of origin, the place they were just a few weeks earlier, that would send the strongest possible signal to accomplish the goal that we really need to accomplish, which is to stop the flow, basically eliminate the incentive for these parents. Think about it, Steve. Parents are taking the risk with their children to put them on this dangerous journey where they have been murdered and raped, because there's an incentive. If they get to the promised land here, they're home free. So we've got to stop creating that incentive. I think that's the most humane thing to do for the children that are still there, so that their parents don't put them on that train and risk their lives. And
I heard one report, one of your colleagues, I believe, did the math and figured out that it's 99% cheaper to do just what you said. As a matter of fact, you could fly them first class.
Yeah, well, I'm the accountant. I actually did that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine. There's actually fares as low as $207 for a one-way ticket. Now that's a couple stops. There's a non-stop for about $450 from Dallas-Fort Worth into those countries.
Which beats 60,000, huh?
Yeah. So let's say in total with hotel and food and that type of thing, maybe new clothes, it costs $1,000 per child. That's $57 million versus the $3,700 million. Okay? I mean, in the president's request, he has $119 million for transportation busing around the U.S. We just showed you that for $57 million, you can fly him back, put him up at a hotel, pay for probably food and some clothing. So, again, I'm just trying to reorient Americans' thinking. You know, we always throw these, and let's face it, it is a humanitarian crisis. We are going to show real compassion, but I would argue true compassion needs to be shown toward those children whose parents haven't sent them on that dangerous journey yet. We really need to think about that, and we need to eliminate the incentives for parents to make that heart-wrenching decision to send their kids here, because the signal's got to be send them up here, have them be in that very dangerous journey, but it's not worth the risk because they'll come right back to Honduras or El Salvador or Guatemala.
How much of a difference do you believe, or what kind of a message would it have sent if the president went down to the border, which he's refused to do, obviously, and stood there with either outside of where these kids are housed or inside where they're housed, and gave that message to the parents? Don't send your kids here because they're going to wind up like this, and we're going to eventually send them back. Do not do it. Would that have been a powerful message, do you believe?
I think it would have been helpful, but there's no better signal than to actually have a few plain folks.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
That is the number one. You know, in our hearing, they had a poster. A poster with some words on it, like that was going to stem the tide. And then of course, the administration is saying they're going to spend $295 million to improve the conditions so you don't have the push factor. I mean, we can't improve our own economy under this administration. Do you think we're really going to alleviate the suffering and the violence by spending $290 million? If we're going to spend money, let's spend it on the immigration services for those home countries so that we know we're returning those children to a safe environment. I'll be happy to spend money that way, but again, we have to direct the money toward eliminating the incentive for those parents to send their kids on this dangerous trip.
All right, couldn't agree with you more, but I found out today, if I'm hearing correctly, that both Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid are against revisiting the law that the Bush signed, which was targeted towards people who are trafficking children. The intent of that law, as you well know, was not how it's being used now, and that's to say, well, because of the Bush law, we have to keep these kids here. We can't send them back. So do you see any prospect for that law being changed, or any prospect under any other circumstances for sending them back the way you want to?
Not with Harry Reid as the majority leader here in the Senate, apparently. I mean, the Democrats don't really want to fix the problem. They want to have it as an issue. So, back when that bill was passed through by unanimous consent within 24 hours, I don't think anybody in either Senate or House probably even saw that bill, except for a few people. Just went, rushing through Congress. Back then, there were about 7,000 children every year that people were concerned about in terms of human trafficking. Well, Steve, now we got 57,000 is the latest figure just from this fiscal year. We're actually promoting human trafficking. A law designed to prevent it, to handle it humanely, is actually incentivizing human trafficking to the tune of 57,000 kids to date. I mean, isn't that what it is? Your parents are paying the most evil people in the world,
to take
these human traffickers, to profit off of their children.
Yeah, now we got a train that's broken down with 1,300 refugees on it in Mexico. The whole thing's a disaster. All right, let me switch, and your lawsuit against Obamacare. Give us an update on that, sir.
Well, we had oral arguments. The judge asked for oral arguments, so I'm very encouraged by the serious nature that the judge is considering our case. He accepted 2 amicus briefs. 45 of my House colleagues or Senate colleagues, Republican colleagues, joined in or signed a letter in support of our lawsuit. And so, I'm encouraged by it. The hearing was on the standing issue, which is that first hurdle. It's really the hoop we have to go through. This the legal technicality, which that this administration wants to knock our lawsuit out of the system because they don't want to argue the merits because they have no defense for what President Obama did. So hopefully the judge said he'll rule on this in short order. Hopefully he'll grant a standing so we can actually have our day in court and just highlight just one of these abuse of power issues that President Obama has engaged in terms of unilateral governance.
Let me ask you about Sergeant Tamarisi. He had a court date in Mexico yesterday, and they ordered him back to prison. He had hoped, at least through his mother, he relayed that he had hoped he would be let out of prison yesterday. Is the administration doing enough to get this man out? I mean, for crying out loud, Mexico is an ally.
You know, I raised the sergeant in our Homeland Security hearing yesterday, and the gentleman from the State Department said, "Oh, they're working vigorously on it." And I just asked, I mean, are you as outraged as I am, as the American people are, in terms of Mexico's treatment here? Is the president outraged? And you know, it was the old bureaucratic razzmatazz. And you know, my final statement was, you know, let's hope he gets released. He was actually, I think, in front of the court during the hearing.
Right.
I said, if he's not released, let's hope that the administration does address this vigorously, expresses the outrage, demands action from the Mexican government. This is an outrage, and we need to apply every ounce of pressure as we possibly can on the Mexican government to release Sergeant Tamarisi.
One more real quick. Hamas bombing Israel retaliating as any country would do, the administration actually expressing support for that. When will this administration break ties with the Palestinian Authority's unity government, which includes Hamas?
When they leave office. You know, Steve, I don't even know where to begin with this president's failure in terms of foreign policy. You know, he actually has a strategy. It's one of withdrawal. It's one of apologizing for America. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked. He has, you know, his huge historic blunder in not leaving a stabilizing force behind in Iraq to consolidate those hard-won gains. You know, almost 4,500 Americans died, 32,000 injuries. We spent $850 billion. And President Obama came to office, and Iraq was largely stable with the historic opportunity for success. Right. President Obama squandered that. He's squandering opportunities around the world, and we're seeing the results of it.
All right, Senator, thank you for your time, sir. Very much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. Senator Ron Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. And we will come back and discuss more of this on the Malzberg panel. And you're not going to want to miss it. We're going to have Kevin Jackson speaking to us from the right side on the panel. And we're going to have criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson speaking to us on the left side. So it's always exciting. Never a dull moment on the Malzberg panel. It's all right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television.
Meet Jill. She thought she'd feel better after seeing her doctor, and she might have if not for Kari, the identity thief who stole Jill's social security number to open credit cards, destroying Jill's credit and her dream of retirement. Every year, millions of Americans just like you learn that a little personal information in the wrong hands could wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Jill had LifeLock's protection, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. And LifeLock offers the proactive protection of checking and savings account takeover alerts. LifeLock's comprehensive identity theft protection guards your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
Doesn't matter how old you are or how much money you have. Identity thieves steal from everyone. You have to protect yourself. I protect myself with LifeLock.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one protects you better than LifeLock. And LifeLock stands behind their protection with the power of their $1 million service guarantee. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and try 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. 60 days risk-free. Use promo code ONGUARD. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Call 1-800-966-8458 or go to lifelock.com/onguard to try 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Call 1-800-966-8458 right now.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic. Now is the moment.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
You know, Jay Johnson has now visited, at my direction, the border 5 times. He's going for his 6th this week. He then comes back and reports to me extensively on everything that's taking place. So there's nothing that is taking place down there that I am not intimately aware of and briefed on. This isn't theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem.
Absolutely. The problem solver in chief, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't a problem he can't solve. Welcome back, and it's time for the Malzberg panel. We welcome in criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson and radio host and author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson. And I want to ask both of you about the fact that the president not only won't go down to the border, but made a point of taking and having a photo op yesterday of him playing pool and drinking beer with the governor of Colorado. Why don't we start with you, Janet?
I don't think this is the biggest problem. The reason children are massing at the border isn't because President Obama didn't go there. So I do think it's just an optical issue, which isn't really what we should be starting the debate with. But, you know, if it makes everybody keep quiet and it satisfies people, yeah, I guess he should have gone there. But it wouldn't have satisfied people. We'd still be talking about something else that we're going to say he didn't do well enough. But just to keep that issue off the table, I guess he should have just gone there.
Kevin, would we have come up with something else? I mean, I could come up with a list of things he didn't do well enough that caused this problem.
Well, I was going to say he's created the problem that he now is forced to solve. But I'll put it to you this way. I was on a tour, and the tornadoes ravaged the South as me and my tour mate were about to start this tour. And so everywhere we went, the tornadoes had cut through in 7 states. And I will tell you this, had I not seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. It looked like a war zone. The only way that you put optics on something is not through sycophants and suck-ups. It's by going and doing something yourself. It shows leadership. The reason why Barack Obama doesn't want to go is because it's a problem that he's created. He doesn't want the media frenzy around seeing all these children and what it's doing to these border states. So you know what? Let's not create a bunch of brouhaha over this, and maybe it'll just go away, and we can bring in these 57,000 and the next 100,000 that are going to be following them.
But he didn't sign the law. George Bush signed the law. It's not his problem. George Bush signed the law.
Well, George Bush signed a law that is now being, in effect, taken out of context. The intent of that law was to protect children from child trafficking. In fact, today Harry Reid and Nancy Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi don't think it's a bad law because today both of them said they're not going to change it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so now you're blaming them. But you know what Mr. Jackson just said is the president created the problem. Technically, the law
He did create the problem. He did create the problem.
Signed.
He created the problem by taking out an ad, but for Homeland Security, taking out an ad in January saying, we're going to have 60,000 unaccompanied kids. We need people to escort them around the country. They knew exactly what was happening, Janet, and what was going to happen.
He had to
not only that, and let me say this.
Let Janet, go ahead, Kevin, let Janet respond first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. That's the problem when you have a bad law. If he has to uphold the law, you can't have children sitting in shelters.
The law was signed in 2000, Janet, the law was signed in 2008. Right. So he knew that in 2014, all of a sudden it was a bad law and kids were going to come in. Give me a break, Kevin.
No, but what's happening?
Let Kevin go now. Go ahead, Kevin.
The point I was going to make is they knew this was coming. Obama's immigration policy has essentially invited anybody and everybody that wants to come in. I know the liberals don't like to talk about this, but even the idea of running the guns into Mexico and probably Central America in order to create the situation of the various cartels and what have you was with the idea that we can bring these kids in at some point. This is all contrived, is what it amounts to.
You think they're going back, Janet?
No, I mean, I think it's tricky when you're dealing with children. I mean, let's face it, who wants to be the person who takes the children and deports them back? And, you know, as the child...
I will, and I'll tell you who else will. We just had Senator Johnson on. He will. They figured out that for about $1,000 a kid, you could take him to a hotel, get him showered, feed him a great meal, buy him a new outfit, and fly him home first class.
How does that violate the law? How does that violate the law?
Excuse me?
The law has to be repealed to do that. The law says that
but the president won't. But no. How about a president? Since Nancy Pelosi now says she's not for it, and in the Senate it'll never be repealed because Harry Reid won't bring it up. How about a president who's already selectively enforced laws he likes and said he will not enforce laws he doesn't like, to just say, I'm not going to enforce that Bush law. He's done it a million times before. Janet?
Well, I think you're talking about executive orders, which is different than saying I'm not enforcing that law, but...
No. There was no executive order on the welfare reform bill where he relaxed the workforce provision, the workfare provision, or on the Obamacare when he extends deadlines, right. or on telling ICE who to deport and who not to deport. That's all selective enforcement. That's why he's being sued, Kevin.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. It is selective enforcement, and the fact of the matter is this: just like they've taken advantage of the 14th Amendment to bring anchor babies in when that was not what it is intended to do, they're taking a law that was not intended to do what it's doing here, and they're saying now you can you're going to have to repeal this law in order for this to happen. No, you don't. You can just say, if you're going to come to this country and there is no strife, and certainly not the strife to bring all these kids in en masse the way that they are right now, this is contrived. The left just needs to admit it. Stop playing games with the American people. $3.7 billion allocated for this when there are veterans that are not being treated, poor people losing their homes and all this. And these guys are contriving things to get this country up in an outrage about.
For what? What's the motive? Why would they do that? I mean, as the child of immigrants, there is immigration. We don't close the borders once we get here. So
there's legal immigration in this country, and we
Janet,
need to...
Janet, where did your parents come from, Janet?
My grandparents came from Russia and Poland.
Well, they were legal, as were my grandparents. So when you say as a child of an immigrant, legal. These are illegal. You got to make that little tiny itsy bitsy distinction. Yeah. We're coming back with more of Janet Johnson and Kevin Jackson on part 2 of the Malzberg panel, and we will take a look at what's going on in the Middle East and the U.S. policy towards it all, and statements that have been made by this administration today and prior to today. So stay tuned. Part 2 of the Malzberg panel is next, and if you want to reach us, here's how you can do it.
Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? Hi, I'm George Foreman. People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can provide patent referrals and submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-464-1685. That's 1-800-464-1685.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Israel continued their airstrikes on Hamas targets in Gaza today. The strikes are in response to rocket attacks from Gaza reaching further into the country. Israel's attacks hit more than 320 targets overnight. Israel's military is preparing for a possible ground invasion to neutralize Hamas militants in Gaza. And funerals for more victims in the strikes were held in Gaza following the attacks. Palestinians carried out 8 bodies through the streets. Civilian deaths in Israeli attacks continue as Hamas targets hide in civilian areas. Israeli military authorities say they are investigating civilian deaths. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we're back with part 2 of the Malzberg panel. Criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson and radio host and author Kevin Jackson. And before we get to the Middle East, something else that I addressed earlier in the show with Senator Johnson, and something he brought up at a hearing yesterday, was the fate of Sergeant Tamarisi, who yesterday had a court date in Mexico and was ordered to remain held in jail. The State Department told the senator yesterday they're working on it. But you know, this is something that's never crossed the lips of the president, not in public anyway. It's just reprehensible in my mind, Janet, that an American Marine who was scheduled to go back to active duty was treated like a dog tied to a bed in Mexico for all to see, and is still being held there.
There was a lot of outrage on Twitter, which is where, I get a lot of my news from there. I don't know if I should admit it, but people have been tweeting to me about this for a while, and I hadn't heard about it. I'm embarrassed to say that's how I learned about it. So I think you're right. It's not getting the coverage. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, and I hope that this is something that, people will start talking about, something will happen, and he comes home. Obviously, that's what everyone wants. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, so I can't speak to that, but I think it does need to be covered. It's a good thing you're talking about it.
What about it, Kevin? The president, shouldn't the president go down to the border and while he's there shout out, hey, Mexico, let our Marine go?
I don't even know how this has gotten to this point, to be honest with you, Steve. Barack Obama talks about having his pen and his phone. And given all the aid that we allow to go to Mexico, with all of the amnesty that we've shown to illegals in this country, you think this would have been resolved within an hour of Tamarisi being in Mexico. And I think what it shows, quite honestly, is the level of clout, the lack of clout that we now have as a country, to where a country like Mexico, who is pretty much they're beholden to the American tax-paying citizen and beholden to Barack Obama, the commander-in-chief, and he would leave this guy there. I think it's atrocious, and the fact that the media is not covering it just shows how, I think, in the bag they are for Barack Obama. If Bush left this Marine in Mexico, I think it would be splattered all over the news.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt. And we have had the mother of Sergeant Tamarisi, Jill Tamarisi. In fact, we're probably going to have her tomorrow as well. It's been now well over 100 days that he's been held there. All right, let's go to the Middle East, and let's go to what's going on with Israel. And let's talk about the media coverage again. First of all, the media refuses to call Hamas terrorists by a 9-to-1. They call them militants or fighters or soldiers. And all we hear is the Palestinian death toll and how disproportionate it is because no Israelis have died in these rocket attacks. Kevin, it's something that Israel's always going to have to live with, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, it's like in football, the guy who strikes back, you know, who retaliates is the one who ends up in trouble. I don't think it's any surprise that the media is sort of looking at Israel as being the bad guy when 3 of their teenagers got kidnapped and brutalized and left and dead, that were killed, obviously. And then, you know, the Israelis, by the way, have found and arrested the 6 people involved with the killing of the Palestinian teen. But it's all Israel's fault. You know, again.
Right. And by the way, they won't be naming any soccer stadiums after those 6 either. Janet, final word on the media coverage of the war against Hamas.
No, I mean, I agree with you guys on this. Israel's in a position where they're dealing with people. You know, everyone's saying Netanyahu's response is going to, you know, there won't be peace. There won't be peace when you live next to people who say we don't think you should exist and who celebrate when your children are killed. So, you know, they're dealing with terrorists. If it was the United States and it was our children, we would do the exact same thing. They have a right to defend their children. And then they punish the people who commit a murder. They treat it like a murder. It's not warfare when you kill a baby.
All right, guys, really appreciate it. Janet Johnson and Kevin Jackson, thank you both for being on the Malzberg panel. We'll be back with Mary Madeline and more of the show. But first, this hour's America's Moment takes a look back at the fall of the Berlin Wall. You won't want to miss this one. Watch.
It was erected in the dead of night, and for 28 years separated East Germany from West Germany. The Berlin Wall quickly came to symbolize the stark difference between the free West and the communist East. In June of 1987, President Reagan visited the wall at the famous Brandenburg Gate and used the occasion to issue 2 public challenges to then Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev.
If you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
His second challenge was more blunt, and as it turned out, even more prophetic.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
On November 9th, 1989, 2 years, 5 months, and 1 day after President Reagan's famous challenge, that is exactly what happened. Only the Soviets didn't tear down the wall, the people of Berlin did. Once the East German government announced their borders to the West were open, the free people on both sides of the wall worked in unison to chip it away, piece by piece, until this monument to tyranny was completely destroyed. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, you have to be exercising. You're really you just don't want to tell us what you're doing. I was like, no, I don't have time to go to a gym. I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately.
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Yeah. You know what that means when the Monkees play and sing Mary, Mary. It's time for Mary Madeline, Republican political consultant, former campaign director for President George H.W. Bush, former assistant to President George W. Bush.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, on and on and on and on. How many presidents can I name? What's
Monkey Mary, are you just trying to, is another way of calling me old, I think.
Oh, stop it. You know, when I was a kid, let me tell you, I was a member of the Monkees fan club, and I remember what they sent me in the mail. They sent me an 8x10 glossy of the Monkees in color, although it was pinkish in its hue, and a Monkey Mobile, like a what do you call, Hot Wheels car of the Monkey Mobile, and a certificate, and I had every single Monkees album.
And you're bragging about this? Do you think you're going to have any listeners after this? I am introducing my children to the Ginger Baker and the Cream and Traffic, and I make them play The Who, and those were musicians.
Oh, look, I loved all those aforementioned, but, you know, when I was a little kid watching the Monkees every week, I was addicted to the Monkees. And you can't find this show too many places now, which is probably a good thing for me. Anyway, enough about the Monkees. Let's switch our attention to important issues, Mary, and I want your input on what's going on down at the border. And you know, if someone of your stature who does what you do and has done what you've done, to have the President of the United States say, no, I'm not going to the border, that's even one thing. But on the same day, to then have a photo op, when he says I don't want a photo op, to then have a photo op with the governor of Colorado shooting pool and drinking beer. How does that happen?
I think about this a lot because as you said, I've known and have worked with and around and for, been blessed to do so, many politicians, and they have a soul. You have to know how to look for it, but they have a different kind of soul. I keep looking for this man's soul, and I can't find it. When he came down here after the BP crisis, after running on Katrina, right? The BP crisis was a real crisis for the whole state, and it had economic consequences for the whole country. He wouldn't come down here, and it took my husband going on TV to scream about it and calling a lot of backdoor stuff of Democrats saying, you got to get down there, got to get down there. And then he did a perfunctory beach photo op. I mean, there's no empathy. There's no understanding. It's just everything's a celebration of him or some self-consciousness raising of him. It's just like all of his laughing and beering around and talking about Austin. I don't understand it. And for the politicians or pundits who are saying this is Obama's Katrina, let me tell you something about his soul. To this day, George W. Bush and Laura Bush are still very, although quietly, very, very involved in the recovery of New Orleans and surrounding areas. This man cares about nothing, and this is so immoral. I can't even think about it because I think of my own kids. It's immoral in its substance. It offers nothing but perverse incentives like legal aid for these illegals or humanitarian aid. It does nothing about border security. It is, you know, when Rick Perry, whom I adore, is either incompetent or doesn't understand. I think he understands, and he wants chaos. He wants chaos at the borders, and I cannot. It's hard for us to analyze why a president would initiate and sanction and incentivize such chaos. That's exactly what it is and what he's seeking to do. And the question that we ask ourselves why is one that we've never had to ask about a president. And that's all I know what to say about it.
Yeah, no. And now, of course, the law that was signed into law by George Bush, I believe, back in 2008, which had great intent, and that was to prevent child trafficking, is now being cited as the reason you can't send these kids back, and that begs two questions. One, well, then change the law immediately. Well, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi both said that isn't going to happen. They don't want to change the law. But if they don't want to, and the president did, which we know he doesn't, he could just do what he's been doing right along. He brags about a pen. He brags about doing around Congress. He could just say, we won't enforce that law anymore, which he's done on welfare reform, which he's done on immigration, which he's done on the Affordable Care Act. But that's not going to happen either, is it?
No, he is selective use of his pen and his phone. And what do you think is going to happen to these kids? Do you really think they're going to be reunited with families, or do you think they're going to be sold into sex trafficking, or they're going to be used for mule drugging or drug mules? This is, again, who's going to take care of these kids? Who's going to place them? How does this happen that there's 22 times more influx of children? You know how it's happened. You've discussed how it's happened. It is beyond immoral, and this is the party that always does everything for the children. It's all about the children. I cannot think of a worse crisis for any children anywhere in the world, including our own, when these unvaccinated and sick children make their way across the country. It's a humanitarian threat to us.
Yeah.
To us, it's a health threat to us.
Yeah, I mean, we don't let kids in school unless they keep up their vaccination records, and now we're letting kids in. We don't know we don't have any health records on them. We don't know what they might have or might not have. It's horrific on so many levels. So let's move on if we can. What do you think of the GOP convention? I know Cleveland's looking for LeBron to come back, but they got the GOP convention 2 years from now. What do you think about that as a choice?
Well, you and I think would agree that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is one badass place. I love it. I think Ohio's a good place to do it, and I've been involved in lots of conventions, and I live in a convention city now, so I know what it takes to put one on, and I know everybody on that committee and the site selection committee, and I know how they made their decision, so I think it's a very sound one. Of course, I would always be an advocate for all conventions to come to New Orleans.
Well, yes, I understand that, and it's very interesting.
Nothing like a drive-through daiquiris, places all over the city to encourage a fun time for any kind of event.
Let me ask you one more, Mary, and that is Lois Lerner. The revelations now that she was very concerned about an office communications server, that's what it was called, OCS, within the IRS. And she reached out to a fellow employee and wanted to know if emails are automatically saved on that server, and should they be concerned, because she's worried that Congress might be able to look at the conversations they're having. And when she was told, act as if they are automatically saved, her quote was, upon being warned about that, she said, perfect. So she was looking for a warning, looking to get tipped off, looking for information. She got it. She said, perfect. I mean, how bad could this, how much worse could this look for Lois Lerner?
Lois Lerner is just a pawn. You think she's doing this without at least implicit direction? The level of corruption here far transcends Lois Lerner. It is corrupt at the highest levels, and that doesn't mean that the president has to issue an order. He's corrupt by not prosecuting this particular case, not being outraged over it, but creating an environment where people wanted employees of his, government employees whom we're supposed to trust, would be so frivolously corrupt. It's bigger than Lois Lerner is what I'm saying. We're focused on a person when it's really a systemic corruption, and it's why people have given up on the government. They're totally given up any trust or potential of trust for the government at the federal level, which gets us back to the answer is to rebuild your families, rebuild your communities, rebuild your cities, and do what you can at home.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And, you know, we always love talking to Mary and appreciate your time. Say hello to your husband, who you alluded to, of course, James Carville, for those who live in a cave somewhere and don't know.
He looks like he lives in a cave, doesn't he?
That's not why I said that. And we look forward to talking to you next time. Appreciate it, Mary.
Bye, Stevie Wonder.
Bye, Mary. All right, there you go, Mary Matlin.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Mary Madeline, ladies and gentlemen. She's worked for, you heard about the woman who lived in a shoe, had so many kids she didn't know what to do. Well, she's worked for so many presidents and vice presidents, I can't name them all. That's not a great analogy, but it'll work because I said it will work. Okay, folks, when we come back, Give Me 5, and I believe on this Give Me 5, we are going to talk about the president speaking after he met with Governor Perry yesterday, claiming he doesn't want a photo op, claiming he doesn't need to go to the border, given the whole rigmarole that we've heard. So you'll hear it all right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Only, and I say only because I mean only, right here on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable Grow-Up Plan. The Grow-Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-417-7939 or go to growupplan.com.
In 2014, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you're robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at aftbook.com. That's aftbook.com.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of finding someone to invest in his vision? 1 in 4.5 million. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
You know, Jay Johnson has now visited, at my direction, the border 5 times. He's going for his 6th this week. He then comes back and reports to me extensively on everything that's taking place. So there's nothing that is taking place down there that I am not intimately aware of and briefed on. This isn't theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem.
There you go, the problem-solving president, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Give Me 5. Barack Obama, after meeting with Governor Perry yesterday and religious leaders, comes out and there he is explaining why he won't go to the border. He's in Texas. He had time to play pool and drink beer in Colorado. He's in the state of Texas. He has 3 fundraisers, but he sends other people to the border because he's interested in solving a problem. What? More.
Those who say I should visit the border, when you ask them what should we be doing, they're giving us suggestions that are embodied in legislation that I've already sent to Congress. So it's not as if they're making suggestions that we're not listening to. In fact, the suggestions of those who work at the border, who visited the border, are incorporated in legislation that we're already prepared to sign the minute it hits my desk.
How convoluted an answer is that? Look, the simple fact is, and it's not just me, and it's not just Republicans, John Boehner said today, look, the president's responsible for this. When is he going to take responsibility for anything? Why? This man will not go to the border. He's a few hundred miles from the border, and he will not do it. And he's coming up with these explanations as to why he won't do it, none of which make any sense, none of which are valid in my mind. More.
There's a very simple question here, and that is Congress just needs to pass the supplemental. There is a larger issue that I recognize involves a lot of politics, which is why aren't we passing comprehensive immigration reform, which would put an additional 20,000 Border Patrol agents and give us a lot of additional authorities to deal with some of these problems. That should have been done a year ago. Should have been done 2 years ago. It's gotten caught up in politics, and I understand that.
Really? Does anybody remember the first 2 years of the Obama presidency? Does anybody remember the makeup of the Senate and the House? Does anybody remember it was Democrat Senate, Democrat House, and that Barack Obama never once put forth a bill on immigration in those 2 years? But now it's the Republicans' fault. Yes, if only they'd pass comprehensive immigration reform or give him more money in a supplemental, all all this would be solved. But I'm not going down to the border. No more.
One of the suggestions I had for Governor Perry was that it would be useful for my Republican friends to rediscover the concept of negotiation and compromise. The governor's one concern that he mentioned to me is that setting aside the supplemental, I should go ahead and authorize having National Guard troops surge at the border right away. And what I told him is we're happy to consider how we could deploy National Guard down there, but that's a temporary solution. That's not a permanent solution. And so why wouldn't we go ahead and pass the permanent solution, or at least a longer-term solution?
Who's on first? What's on second? I don't know who's on third. Let's have one more from the president.
This should not be hard to at least get the supplemental done. The question is, are we more interested in politics, or are we more interested in solving the problem? If we're interested in solving...
All right. Well, and he takes it from there, ladies and gentlemen. It goes on and on and on. Who's interested in politics, and who's interested in solving the problem? I maintain the president is only interested in politics, and it's Perry and others down there on the border that he won't visit that want to solve the problem. On the Steve Malzberg Show.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry continued his diplomatic tour in China today. Kerry commented on the sectarian violence in the Middle East and tensions in the Korean Peninsula in Beijing. Kerry says Hamas is refusing to find a peaceful solution in the conflict with Israel, and that the United States shares China's commitment to denuclearize North Korea. The address is part of annual talks between the U.S. and China. And U.S. government officials are hinting at a possible compromise for the immigration crisis in the southern border. Earlier this week, President Obama asked Congress for $3.7 billion for overwhelmed detention facilities. Republican proposed policy changes could have the minors crossing the border sent home faster. Many in the Gaza Strip have simply had enough of being in the line of fire. Egyptian authorities opened their borders to injured Palestinians today. Victims are able to receive medical treatment in the country's hospitals. Israel's attacks target Hamas militants. However, Israel says Hamas is deliberately endangering civilians by using their homes for cover. Neither side is showing any interest in a ceasefire. And a rocket fired from Gaza hit a storage room in southern Israel in a recent string of violence in the region. The attack drove Israeli school children to abandon playgrounds and take refuge in an underground shelter. Hamas rocket attacks are increasing in the distance. One rocket attack reached 60 miles north of Gaza. Tensions between Israel and Gaza are becoming more visible here at home. Pro-Palestinian and pro-Israel demonstrators arrived on opposite sides of the street outside Israeli consulate in New York today. Each side held up signs criticizing the opposing side in the conflict. Both sides accuse one another for supporting excessive violence. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, in just a few minutes, we'll be joined by Senator John Barrasso, Republican from the great state of Wyoming, chair of the Senate Republican Policy Committee, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. We have a lot to talk about with him. And then Adam Thompson, attorney, talk show host as well, will be talking about the horrific case of the little boy who was left in the car down in Georgia and what kind of trouble his parents, both of them, might be in. Then the road to the White House, and today we'll take a look at the possible candidacy of one former Governor, Jeb Bush. So stay tuned for that. We have all that, Gimme 5 and more, all coming up on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I'm saying that they were ready to sign. I'm saying that this administration, this president, didn't want to stay, and we were there in Baghdad and in Erbil when they agreed to do it. Now, we were actually there, and the President of the United States would never give them a number of troops and their mission that they wanted to leave behind to stay, and we were there.
Left, the Iraqis would not sign the Status of Forces Agreement, which would have put troops under our control, under our legal control.
All right, sorry, folks, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties with that video, but joining us right now is Senator John Barrasso, chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee, as mentioned, and member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Hello, Senator. How are you, sir?
Well, great, Steve. Thanks. And I was with Senator McCain in some of those meetings with Maliki, and he's absolutely right. That they wouldn't give a number, and we kept saying to the administration and to Maliki that we need to make sure that we are able to leave troops there as a peacekeeping force. And the day that we left, look what happened. Maliki went sectarian, and it's all been downhill since then.
Isn't it also true, Senator, that in an unprecedented fashion, this administration, our administration, insisted on dictating how that SOFA, if there were to be a SOFA, would be voted upon by the Iraqi government, dictating the terms of that the legislature would have to approve it?
Yeah, the president was looking to make sure that he got no for an answer. And he put mandates in there, continuing to make it harder and harder for the Iraqis to agree, because he made a campaign promise that he was going to be out by a certain deadline date, regardless of whether it was in the best interest of the United States, in the best interest of security and protection for the citizens. He made a campaign promise, and he kept it.
Our defense secretary said recently that ISIS poses not only a threat to the region and our interests and our allies, but it poses a threat to our homeland. And I've heard this from other people, Congressman Peter King and others, that, you know, the makeup of ISIS, the fighters who have gone to join into that fray in support of ISIS, many of them are Westerners, many of them have passports and visas and could come into this country.
And the manpower, as well as the money and the weapons, all of which put us, our homeland, in direct threat. We are the target, and my concern is the safety and security of the people of the United States. The area that they have taken in Syria and Iraq is larger than the state of Indiana. And when you see their commander go to the pulpit to preach in an area, this is very different than what Osama bin Laden did, where he took to hiding out. They are emboldened. They are out in public and feel they have control of a large enough area that he can come out in public in that way. And this is going to be a religious effort to go after, I believe, the entire Western way of life.
And you talk about weakness in the Obama administration and the foreign policy. Talk about how that has helped embolden the leader of ISIS, and also talk about how that, basically what amounts to support for the Palestinian Authority unity government, which includes Hamas, just flies in the face of anything that makes any common sense as Hamas continues to bomb Israel.
Well, whenever the United States leaves a vacuum, bad actors move in, and it emboldens and invites them to move in, and we have done that. When the president, draws a red line and his bluff is called, that invites additional aggression. When he makes threats about Russia when they invade the Ukraine with forces that are causing disorder there, and the threats turned out to be empty, that emboldens others, and it emboldens not just in the Middle East, it emboldens Russia, it emboldens China, it emboldens North Korea, so it's a global thing. And then with regard to Hamas, a known terrorist organization, when they hook up with the Palestinian Authority, as they have done, and the president is trying to pressure Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, to make concessions to the Palestinian Authority combined with Hamas, a known terrorist organization, it just shows additional Barack Obama administration weakness.
Before we get to the EPA, and this is something that everybody has to hear about, I do want to ask your opinion on what's going on the border, which of course is also an issue of national security, but with regard to the children who are there, the president's refusal to go down there, his request for almost $4 billion more. Let me ask you about that first. Would you vote to give the president the $3.75 billion?
Not at this point. I want to see what his plan of action is. The president apparently doesn't believe he needed to go there. He did need to go to Texas for fundraisers where if he paid $32,000, apparently he could visit with the president, but he wasn't interested in visiting the border. He said he knows everything that's happening there. The real problem I have with the president's statements like that, Steve, is 3 weeks ago he said the world is a less violent place than it's ever been before. And look at the violence worldwide. So he says he knew what was going on then. 4 days before the healthcare law website opened, he said, "Oh, it'll work great, easier to use than Amazon, cheaper than your cell phone." And then we saw the huge meltdown and collapse of that. So I don't believe the president when he says he knows what's going on. The president continues to talk a lot about that. And then the VA scandal. What did he say? He said he learned about it from television.
Yep.
So that's what we have in the White House today. And I don't think that the American people are getting the kind of leadership they deserve.
All right. On the EPA, and you, of course, a member of the Energy and National Resources Committee, the Environment and Public Works Committee, we now have a situation where the EPA wants the ability to garnish the paychecks of polluters?
Well, and they said they came out with this amazingly right before Independence Day, one of those kind of late-night deals where they figured people wouldn't be watching. They said it was non-controversial. Look, let's face it, the EPA under this administration has a history of being bullies, using intimidation and abuse, strong-arm tactics, very heavy-handed. What they want to do now is make an end run around the courts, no due process. And, we live in a democracy, but they're sure treating this like a dictatorship to try to just take and grab power that I believe they do not have. They said if they didn't hear from people by August 1st, that then it would just go. Well, they've heard from me today in a letter to the EPA with other senators. So we're going to continue to fight them. And, I have a constituent in Wyoming who was a rancher. He built a little stock pond. They were fining him $75,000 a day. We had a family in Idaho, the Sacketts, that they were fined and fined and fined. They finally got to the Supreme Court. 9-0. 9-0, the justices voted in favor of this family and against the EPA and the lack of due process. So we have an intimidating, abusive EPA right now and they're trying to take authority that I don't believe they have.
And just explain, I mean, is this, when they talk about paychecks, I mean, companies, you know, don't get coal plants or whatever, something that might come to mind as a polluter, an industrial plant, they don't get paychecks. So are these small people? Are these employees?
Yeah. Well, this guy in Wyoming, he's a rancher, and he built a stock pond, but they're not, and he got a permit from the state of Wyoming so he could do it.
Right.
But he didn't go to the Army Corps of Engineer and the Environmental Protection group, and this is what's happened. And it's huge fines, and this is on top of the fact that the EPA just recently has put out regulations to redefine the waters of the United States.
Yep.
So they want to be in control of a ditch that 10, 11 months of the year there's no water flowing through it, but when it rains, water does flow through it, or puddles, or prairie potholes where water accumulates after the snow melts or after a storm. But most of the time is dry, and they want to consider that sort of thing as a wetland and then take control over that water.
And, you know, you talk about the 9-0 decision. That's probably one of the 13 that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled unanimously against the Obama administration since 2012.
Well, we just had one a week or so ago about the president's illegal recess appointments.
Yep.
You know, the Senate ought to be able to determine when it's in recess. The president doesn't get to decide that. And, you know, the problem is when we do sue, we tend to win, which is the good part. The bad part is it takes so long. So from the time he made those recess appointments, it took over 2 years to get it through the courts and then to finally get the 9-0 ruling by the Supreme Court. And by then, a lot of damage has been done by the people who have been illegally appointed.
Oh, boy. All right, Senator Barrasso, great to talk to you, and thanks for educating us on this EPA thing. It's just another example of an overreaching, out-of-control situation. But we look forward to talking to you next time, sir.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's John Barrasso, ladies and gentlemen, Senator from Wyoming. I have another story here. How the EPA regulations are likely to kill a 68-year-old Louisiana peach orchard. 68 years old. The orchids at Mitchell Farms near north city of Louisiana, of Ruston, Louisiana. They've survived, you know, winter freezes, droughts, dangerous storms, but they say they won't survive the EPA and its regulations. They established in '46. They're featured in tourism magazines, largest peach orchid according to its website. But here's the deal. The federal government has banned a chemical back in '05 used to treat diseased peach trees. And it's given him no choice. Most of his trees will not survive without that chemical to help preserve diseased peach trees. So many of his trees have already died. He's one of many producers across the country affected by the ban, which the Competitive Enterprise Institute estimates is costing the agriculture industry in southern states up to $1.5 billion a year. And the EPA claims using this chemical threatens the Earth's ozone layer. So I guess we're all going to be paying a lot more for peaches, and this poor family-owned business, 68 years old, which I'm sure he didn't build, remember, he didn't build that, is in danger of going bye-bye. What a shame. All right, folks, when we come back, Attorney Adam Thompson will join us in studio, and we're going to talk about the horrific case down in Georgia. What's going to happen to the father who left his son in that car, and to the mother, on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
To find out more, call 800-263-4151. That's 800-263-4151.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
After he's talking about how Cooper looked peaceful and his eyes were closed and it just, looked like he's sleeping, he goes, I dreaded how he would look.
Dreaded past tense.
As in past tense.
Did you uncover anything and what he was doing during that day while his child was out in the car?
He was having up to 6 different conversations with different women.
And these conversations he was having with these females, were these, of what nature were they?
The most common term would be sexting.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. New news to report in this case today, and joining us is Adam Thompson, senior partner and owner of the law office of Adam Thompson and syndicated talk show host. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
And welcome aboard. Okay, so tell me, first of all, the news that broke today is toxicology reports are in on the little boy, and there were no drugs in his system. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing as far as the little boy, because they said there were scratches, he had abrasions on the back of his head, and the testimony indicated that he most likely, while trying to get out or just as a reaction to the heat and broiling to death, his head might have been going back and forth. You can't even imagine it. So maybe some kind of drug would have lessened the pain. But legally, does this hurt or help the father?
Well, obviously, if there was medication or some kind of sedation found in the baby's system, they would say, obviously, he drugged him so the kid would just lay there and bake inside the car. But I don't think because it came back negative that it necessarily hurts the prosecution's case, because if the father was researching how to kill a baby inside a car, no father is then going to sedate the kid, because that would just prove that he researched it and then took an extra step. You have an overt act. So I think they're not going to really have any harm done by this. In fact, they may say maybe this furthers his planning it because he didn't do that.
I mean, I've never seen anything so, well, I can't say I've never seen anything so sinister, because we've heard of a lot of horrific crimes over the many years that you and I have both been on this earth. But there's nothing more sinister than killing a child, your own child, and purposely killing a child, if that's what he did. But then, I don't know, the utter stupidity to think that the paper trail, or the internet trail in this case, the social media trail, the things he did, the actions he took, the things he said to his wife said to him, that this wasn't going to land him and maybe, I'll ask you this later, her, in legal hot water? I don't get it.
It amazes me in this day and age how advanced technology is. Everybody at this point should know emails are going to be searched, cell phones are going to be searched, text messages, anything you do, cameras in parking lots showing where you go when, even your cars and your phones are tracked, what routes you're driving. So for him to think that his research of how to kill a baby, how to survive in prison,
how to live a childless life.
Right. That wouldn't be discovered is beyond me.
And the wife, let's get to the wife.
Sure.
She hasn't been charged. Legally speaking, going to the prison and saying, the first thing she says when she sees her husband is, "Did you say too much?" At the funeral, saying she wouldn't bring the kid back. That's not legally indicting, I guess. And saying when she gets to the school and the kid's not there, oh, he must have left him in the car. Tell me what you're from a legal perspective.
Those are pretty damning. First of all, the fact, you always look at consciousness of somebody. When someone arrives and your child just died, you would think the conversation between the husband and wife when they see each other is going to be remorsefulness about the child being gone. And the first words you're uttering, or close to the first words, are, "Hey, did you say too much?"
Yeah.
That kind of lets the cat out of the bag, unless you don't use common sense, Steve.
What happened?
Right. Oh, my God, what were you thinking?
Or crying into each other's arms.
Did you say too much? That just looks terrible. The other
thing, is it legally actionable?
Sure, because a prosecutor can argue that shows consciousness of guilt. Listen, when you're a juror and you're sitting on the case, you don't leave your common sense outside in the street. You're bringing in the courtroom with you and analyze facts. What does that represent to you? Your gut reaction that you just said is how most jurors are going to react. That's what you said to him when you saw him. You didn't say, "Oh my God, our child's dead." You said too much. That just is horrible. The other thing that you brought up that's really monumental to me
is when she went to the school.
When she's at the school and he says he must have left him in the car, what would make your brain trigger that as the first response, as if it wasn't pre-thought out? Oh my God, let me make sure everybody hears this. Maybe he left him in the car.
Then they say to her, no, there are a million other explanations. And she says, reportedly, no, he left him in the car.
That's... usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Right, so doesn't prove anything on its face, but when you couple them all together with the other actions,
very, damning circumstantial.
A lot of sinister activity starts surfacing.
So if you're the prosecution here and you're the state, are you talking to her yet? Are you keeping a close tab on her that she doesn't run away? Are you going to eventually play her off him, let her give information and give her a lesser charge to rat out on him, or how do you play this?
Well, that's a great question, because right now, obviously, they have a united front. That whole dog and pony show in the church where she says, "You're the greatest dad ever," everybody stand and applaud. I wonder if she went back to the church now and gave that same speech. They knew he was sexing with 6 or 7 other girls. Right, are they going to even show up, let alone stand and applaud?
Yeah.
So that shows what a rouge that was, and that there was maybe some discussion before they did any of this. But getting back to that, the prosecution at this point has to be thinking she's involved. She looked up the same materials on the internet, and those reactions and comments when she first was made aware, they don't sit well. Whether or not they want to expand it to her and make it both of them, we'll yet to see. But definitely against him, they're going to have a pretty strong case going forward.
Will they be able to make him, and it's all premature, but will they be able to make him into a sympathetic figure at all?
I think at this point, with everything that's come out, that while his son is baking to death inside a car, he's having 5 or 6 different messages.
Will that be allowed into court? The
Absolutely, because what was his state of mind? What were you doing that you forgot your kid was out in the car? If I'm a prosecutor, I'm screaming to get that in. You were more concerned hooking up with other women than your kid baking in a car? That was on your mind at work?
Not to mention pulling an Anthony Weiner and sending it to allegedly a 16 or 17-year-old girl.
Absolutely. It's just disgusting. So sympathy's not going to be something on his side in court.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting. What's the timetable? What's next here? He has to be indicted by a grand jury?
Right. Well, the case will have to go forward. There'll be grand jury presentations, and then after that, it'll just be not guilty pleas at this point, and then it'll just it'll be a while.
And we got 30 seconds. Why then did they bring it to a hearing, a trial hearing, if they didn't give it to a grand jury yet? Don't they usually go right to a grand jury, like here in Europe?
They do it different ways in different states.
But they're doing both here.
Right. Sometimes they do a probable cause hearing to see if there's any foundation to it, given to the fact that it might have been accidental. But given the evidence at that.
And did they give up too much evidence to prosecution or no?
I don't think so. No. You want to be able to make sure the case moves forward, and you're going to keep them in on bail.
Right, no bail. Hey, great to see you.
Always a pleasure,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. All right, folks, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show after the break. I got to tell you, I just go back to some of the CNN anchors saying there, but for the grace of God go I. Hasn't he suffered enough? Then they find out the truth. It's a very telling case. We're coming back.
Look how beautiful it is.
Honey, we need to talk.
We do. I took the trash out.
I know, and thank you so much for that. I think we should get a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
Right now?
Whether you're new to Medicare or not, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. It's up to you to pay the difference. So think about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan. insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay.
I did a little research. With a Medicare supplement plan, you'll be able to stay with your doctor.
Oh, you know, I love that guy.
These types of plans let you visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients, and there are no networks.
Is this a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
No, there are lots of plan options. It all depends on what we need and how much we want to spend.
Call now to request your free decision guide. It could help you find an AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
What happens when we travel?
The plans go with us, anywhere in the country.
I like that.
You know what else? United Healthcare Insurance Company has years and years of experience. What do you say?
I'm in.
Join the millions already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP. Remember, all Medicare supplement plans help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could really save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose your own doctor or hospital as long as they accept Medicare patients. And with these plans, there could be low or no copays.
You do your push-ups today?
Prepare to be amazed.
Don't wait. Call today to request your free decision guide and find the AARP Medicare supplement plan to go the distance with you. Go long.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? Are you struggling to make ends meet because you owe more in taxes than you can afford to pay?
The IRS is relentless and will collect from you. They can garnish your wages or place a levy on your bank account. You have rights, and you can stop them by calling the tax resolvers.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now, and we will contact the IRS on your behalf. Help you end wage garnishment, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, resolve tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify.
It's a free call and a free consultation, but we can only help if you pick up the phone and dial the number below.
You wouldn't fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you resolve your IRS problems.
Call the Tax Resolvers at 800-489-3480.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. A Texas gunman was charged for killing 4 children and their parents in Houston today. Ronald Lee Haskell, 33, is accused of entering a suburban Houston home disguised as a delivery man and shooting the family to death. The slain children include 2 boys aged 4 and 14 and 2 girls aged 7 and 9. Authorities say Haskell did not resist arrest when police arrived. And an apartment fire in Lowell, Massachusetts killed 7 today. All victims were found on the top floor of the 3-story building. A police officer reported the fire just before 4 a.m., but the building was engulfed by the time the firefighters arrived. The state fire marshal is still investigating the cause of the blaze. And the Supreme Court will have at least one same-sex marriage case to rule on when it returns in October. The Attorney General for Utah announced the state will take the issue directly to the High Court. If they take the case, this will be the first ruling on the issue since last year. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Because they cover like out of 20 methods, they cover about 17.
Right.
And so the 3 we're taking out.
It's four
that
we're taking out.
So they still cover a majority of things for women. So they didn't know that they were covering something. Their religious beliefs say, a birth begins at conception. So if it goes against their religious belief and it's their company, why should they be forced to cover something that if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything?
No, Sherry. You are so wrong about that.
All right, the girls, the ladies of The View, and by the way, we got a Gimme 5 coming up on the return of Rosie to The View, which you're not going to want to miss, I promise you that. But Sherry Shepherd was actually defending the Hobby Lobby decision. Oh my goodness. Here's more.
Why can my employer tell me that I can't have an IUD?
Well, then why don't you run your own business and make your own money? This is a corporation. No. I'm giving another. Okay, you want us to just all agree? I'm giving another opinion. Okay. Good grief. Before y'all jump on me. Hobby Lobby said they wanted to form their own business. They work hard. This is their company. It's their beliefs. So I'm saying you're telling me I don't want to support something that goes against what I believe in.
Yeah, well, good for Sherry Shepherd. Of course, the others were outraged. And that was Sonny Hostin from CNN. You know, the one who during the Trayvon Martin case said of the prosecutor in the closing arguments, she called him McDreamy. He had that female jury at hello. Yeah, that worked out real well. Anyway, it is funny. What could I say? Anyway, so good for Sherry Shepherd. Of course, she's getting fired from The View, but Rosie O'Donnell is coming back. And wait, you got to see the Gimme 5 to see exactly who Rosie O'Donnell is. All right. I want to alert you that the road to the White House is going to be next. So stay where you are. We're going to take a look at the possible presidential candidacy of one former governor, Jeb Bush. So stay here for that. This is interesting. How many percent, what percent of Americans do you think agree with the president, the left, and the media when they say the debate is over about global warming? There is no debate. It's over. That's it. I mean, the head of CNN's reliable sources has said that. The host. We shouldn't have people on who disagree with global warming because it's over. 20%, according to the latest Rasmussen poll, 20% agree with that. Folks, these people are lunatics in some respects, and they're in such a vastly radical leftist minority, and they have the access to the mainstream, to the masses, through the media, through the bully pulpit or whatever, and they pretend to, they want to make you think you're crazy. You're not crazy. Of course there's a debate. 63% think the debate is not over, and it's not. All right, we'll be back with the road to the White House, but first, here comes Dr. Chauncey Crandall to talk about cholesterol and food.
If you have high cholesterol, you probably think that taking a statin drug is the best way to lower it. After all, why wouldn't you? Statins are among the most prescribed drugs in the world. But although they are great medications to those who truly need them, other people can lower their cholesterol just by adding certain foods to their diet. Here are the 3 cholesterol-lowering foods that you'll find at your supermarket. Number 1 is oatmeal. Oatmeal is a potent cholesterol-lowering food because oats are a soluble fiber. This means that they absorb the excess cholesterol in your digestive system and carry it out of your body. In addition, oatmeal also helps prevent diabetes and cancer as well. In fact, research shows that eating oatmeal on a regular basis can be as effective as taking a statin. Second, choose salmon over beef and you'll be replacing a food packed with cholesterol-raising saturated fat with one rich in monounsaturated fat. This is the type of good fat that makes salmon taste fattening, but it's not. Salmon is also packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which lower triglycerides, another dangerous blood fat. Third, if it's mid-afternoon and you're craving a snack, grab a handful of almonds. Eating almonds every day lowers your bad LDL cholesterol by about 9%. Almonds are also packed with other vitamins as well, but the best thing about almonds is that they don't taste like a health food. Almonds contain no cholesterol and are also packed with healthy monounsaturated oils. Since most of you are already reading my book, The Simple Heart Cure, I want you to go to chapter 11, in which I tell you about foods that can help you lower your cholesterol. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Health Minute. I'll see you next time.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with his special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
I've always seen No-No on TV and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No is better than ever. Introducing the new No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of thermocon tips specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedom, our Constitution, and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Someone who comes to our country because they couldn't come legally. They come to our country because their families, you know, a dad who loved their children was worried that their children didn't have food on the table. And they, you know, wanted to make sure their family was intact. And they crossed the border because they had no other means to work, to be able to provide for their family. Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of it's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family.
All right, folks, welcome to our daily segment, The Road to the White House. And today we take a look at the possible presidential candidacy of one former Florida Governor, Jeb Bush. You may recognize the last name. And joining us to talk about it in depth is the president and CEO of Safety Media and former senior policy advisor for former Governor Jeb Bush, Justin Safey. Hello, Justin.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I started with that clip because I remember after the governor had said that, we had Ron Christie, former G.W. Bush advisor, here in studio, and I said, is that going to impact a race for the presidency? And he said he just committed suicide. I'm sure you would probably disagree, but how problematic, if at all, do you believe that that statement could be and will be?
Well, I think that there's certainly people in the country and people in the Republican Party that disagree with that statement. But look, that's the kind of leader that Jeb Bush is. He's the kind of leader that calls it as he sees it. He's not going to tailor his comments, tailor his views based on what he feels is politically expedient. That's how he feels. And that's one of the things that I have a lot of respect for him, is that he puts it out there. He doesn't stick his finger in the wind, poll test things, and decide that's where we're going to go. I think the definition of leadership is not looking at the polls and deciding what you're going to do. The definition of leadership is looking at where we need to go and then leading the polls in that direction. So, look, will that be problematic in certain parts of the country, in certain areas, if he decides to run, which we don't know whether he will? Possibly, but at the same time, he brings so many other strengths where he decide to run that I think the people that would oppose that, it wouldn't ultimately be suicidal or fatal, as that person said.
Well, I want to get to the strengths, but first I want to put up one of the polls that are likely Republican primary voters. And when that gets up, you could see that Rand Paul reached 20%. This is a brand new poll, and you have Chris Christie and Jeb Bush tied for second at 13%. Both, of course, it's early, and I guess one would consider Jeb Bush and Chris Christie kind of to the middle or the left of the conservatives in the Republican Party. So, is this encouraging at this point that the two of them, if you put them together, have 26? That there is hope for a less conservative voice winning the Republican primary?
Look, first of all, I don't really put a lot of credence in polls at this point. It's still 2014. We haven't had the 2014 November elections. The midterm elections haven't taken place yet. That's my point number one. My second point is that, look, in 2008 and in 2012, Republican primary voters had a choice, and they chose, in one instance, John McCain. In another instance, they chose Mitt Romney. Newt Gingrich won South Carolina. I think Rick Santorum won. I know he won Iowa. I think he might have won Mississippi. Michelle Bachmann won the Iowa straw poll. Herman Cain won the Florida straw poll. Yet none of those people that I just mentioned won the 2012 presidential nomination for the Republican Party. So I look to what the Republican voters, the primary voters, have done in the past if you want to try to predict the future. And I would even argue that in 2012, those who consider themselves members of the Tea Party were very, very active, were very, very active in the primary process. Yet our presidential nominee was Mitt Romney from Massachusetts, who passed a version of Obamacare when he was governor of Massachusetts. So I look to that more than I look at what the current polls are when I'm trying to predict the future.
All right, fair enough. Absolutely, these are very early polls, but they are at least an indicator of the present. And so is this one where Hillary Clinton head-to-head with Jeb Bush, which brings me to the statement. You see Hillary Clinton 48 and Governor Bush 41, which brings me to the statement made by Jeb Bush's mom, the former First Lady, who basically said, you know, we've had enough Bushes in the White House. Let's look somewhere else. And here's what President George W. Bush had to say, not in direct response to that, but it was after that. Let's watch.
I thought you were going to say Jeb Bush.
Well, he would be great. You know,
2 words.
He would be a marvelous candidate if he chooses to do so. He doesn't need my counsel because he knows what it is, which is run. But whether he does or not, it's a very personal decision.
So who's right when it comes to, if you could put a gauge on what they call Clinton fatigue, Bush fatigue, in this case Bush fatigue maybe. Is it Barbara Bush who said we've had enough Bushes? She may change that tune. She may have changed it already, but she did say it. Or George W. Bush who says run, you'd be great, run. Where do you think the public is with the Bushes and then extended to the Clintons?
Well, I guess we could look at polls to see that, but look, I think that, you know, and it's been said before, I think Mrs. Barbara Bush has said this, that, you know, we are a big country, we have a lot of talented people in this country, and so I think it's perfectly natural to ask the question of, you know, the fact that, you know, people would ask about Hillary Clinton being the spouse of Bill Clinton, former president, and people will make the same observations about Governor Jeb Bush and the fact that his father was president, his brother was president. I think at the end of the day, ultimately, the American public will judge every candidate on his or her merits, and that's the way it should be, and not based on who their brother was or who their sister was or who their father was or who their mother was. I think at the end of the day, when the American people and the American voter goes to vote who they want to represent them in the Oval Office, they'll make their decision based on the qualifications and the experience of the person that's seeking the nomination or seeking the presidency. So does it have an impact? Sure it does. Will it ultimately be decisive by Election Day? I don't think so. And again, I would say this with respect to any candidate.
Let me ask you this. Common Core is something that, if I'm correct, Jeb Bush has been a champion of.
Yep.
Also has helped him in fundraising, from what I've read at a story at the Tampa Bay paper. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with Common Core around the country, especially from parents, as well as some educators. Is this something else, another obstacle that he might have to overcome?
Well, I think that for certainly there are members of the public and members of parents and members of the Republican Party that don't support Common Core. Again, Governor Bush has supported it from the beginning, continues to support it, has said publicly that he doesn't think that that the fact that there are people that oppose it are a reason for him to change his views on that. So will there be people that select Common Core as the single defining issue as to how they vote in a presidential nomination? Perhaps there are, but I think other issues like leadership, like what's going on in the world right now, you know, you look to the Middle East, you look at what's happening in China, you look what's happening in other parts of the world, in Venezuela. I think at the end of the day, you look at the economy and our slow economic growth. We had negative economic growth the last quarter in the United States. You look at all these other issues. I think at the end of the day, with respect to whether it's Governor Bush, if he chooses to run, or any other candidate, I think that issues of the national economy, our $17 trillion debt, and the international crises we see taking place around the world are going to be much more important issues by which voters in the Republican Party, and for the Democratic Party for that matter, will make their decision.
And finally, Justin, let me ask you this in the minute we have left. Do you think he will run?
Boy, I get asked this question all the time. I got asked it with a few friends I had lunch with today. You know, look, I think that like President
Tell me
Bush,
exactly what you told the friends at lunch. Go ahead.
Yeah, I told them that I didn't know, and I told them that it was something that is such a personal decision, as President Bush said in that soundbite that you played earlier, that it's really an impossible game to try to figure out what he may or may not do. So I've stopped putting odds on it. I never really started putting odds on it, but I don't put odds on it, and I think we're just going to have to wait for him to get to making that personal decision. Personally, I'm really, in the immediate future, being a Miami Heat fan, I'm really interested to see whether LeBron James is going to stay with the Miami Heat. That's the decision that we're going to get. We're going to get that before Governor Bush makes his decision.
Yeah, well, hey, Justin Safey, thank you, and you might want to look to the Republican convention for LeBron in Cleveland, but I don't know that for sure. Thank you very much. Hey, folks, tomorrow on the road to the White House, we'll take a look at Chris Christie with John Zogby, the pollster, and Roger Stone. Give Me 5 is next.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
The Great Recession and the financial crisis are finally over. The stock market is way up, and that means that now all senior homeowners are financially secure. Happy days are here again. Well, that's what they keep telling us, right? But if you're a senior, 62 or over, have you recovered financially? Have you magically replaced all your retirement money? Are you suddenly all set for retirement? With a government-backed reverse mortgage, you'll never make another mortgage payment again. Instead, you'll receive money in any number of different ways that you choose. The money you get is tax-free, and there are no restrictions on how to use it. With an all-new and improved reverse mortgage, you always retain ownership of your home, so you can age in place gracefully. And your mortgage does not have to be paid off to qualify.
It makes life much easier.
That was the best thing I've ever done.
Call 1-800-548-6498, 1-800-548-6498.
Life can hit you with the unexpected. Forcing you to make difficult decisions. Leaving you feeling helpless. You don't have to lose your home. It's time to take control. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling can help. The NFCC is a nonprofit organization that has been providing quality financial counseling and education for 60 years. Our national network of community-based member agencies have helped millions of consumers with foreclosure prevention. Seek advice from our certified housing counselors today. Call us or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. Real solutions for real people.
I thought that was really kind of below the belt to say that she spits in the face of the military. I'd like Elizabeth to explain herself, really. What does she mean by that? And isn't it kind of a nasty thing to say about somebody who basically is a good person? I mean, say what you want about Rosie O'Donnell. She's a very generous person. She has 1 million kids. She's always rescuing children. I mean, she has more kids than Mrs. Duggar at this point on her roster. You know what I mean? The woman is, her son is at the Citadel. What more does Elizabeth want?
All right, folks, welcome to Give Me 5. That's Joy Behar responding to something that Elizabeth Hasselbeck said yesterday in response to the rumors that The View is bringing back Rosie O'Donnell. Now, Elizabeth and Rosie had their moments on The View over the years, very, very vicious back and forths, let's call them. Rosie O'Donnell has said some horrific things about this country. She's a truther. She said horrific things about our military, as Elizabeth Hasselbeck did allude to, and Joy Behar has no idea what she's talking about. Let's watch Rosie from 2007.
655,000 Iraqi civilians are dead. Who are the terrorists?
Who are the terrorists?
655 Iraqis. I'm saying you have to look from the... We invaded...
Wait, who are you calling terrorists?
I'm saying that if you were in Iraq and another country, the United States, the richest in the world, invaded your country and killed 655,000 of your citizens, what would you call us?
Are we killing their citizens, or are their people also killing their citizens?
Invading a sovereign nation and occupying a country against the UN.
She's calling our military terrorists, in my view. So Joy Behar, that's what she's talking about, okay? That's what Elizabeth Hasselbeck was talking about when she said she called our military terrorists. That statement right there. You want more from Rosie? Greatest hits.
I do. Wait a second. We were attacked not by a nation. And as a result of the attack and the killing of nearly 3,000 innocent people, we invaded 2 countries and killed innocent people in their countries.
But you understand that the belief funding those attacks, okay, that is widespread. And if you take radical Islam and you want to talk about what's going on there, you have to...
And just one second, radical Christianity is just as threatening as radical Islam. In a country like America, where we have a separation of church and state, where a democracy...
Radical Christianity is just as dangerous as radical Islam. So the U.S. are terrorists and our soldiers are terrorists. Radical Christianity is just as bad as radical Islam, because I see radical Christians blowing people up all the time here, don't you? You want more? There's more.
I do believe that it is the first time in history that fire has ever melted steel. I do believe that it defies physics for the World Trade Center Tower 7, Building 7, which collapsed in on itself. It is impossible for a building to fall the way it fell without explosives being involved. World Trade Center 7. World Trader 1 and 2 got hit by planes. 7, miraculously, the first time in history, steel was melted by fire. It is physically impossible.
And who do you think is responsible for that?
I have no idea. But to say that we don't know that it imploded and it was an implosion and a demolition is beyond ignorant. Look at the films, get a physics expert here from Yale, from Harvard, pick the school.
And physics experts and experts in that field have debunked the rosy truther conspiracy theory that 9/11 somehow, or the demolition of some of the buildings, were internally staged. This is the person ABC and Disney wants to bring back. You want more? Let's put up on the screen something else Rosie had to say here in number 32. You'll find this interesting, I'm sure. They're talking about Giuliani in a post 9/11 who appeared very heroic. Joy Behar, though, says now some people are saying he wasn't that efficient. And O'Donnell says also he was, instrumental in making sure that all of the steel was removed and shipped to Canada right away. And then she says, no, I mean, it was shipped to China right away. Why? When Rosie says, well, to get it out of there. So it's all gone. So there's no metal to test. There was no. And then, I mean, so not only did the United States or somebody blow up some of those buildings, but then Giuliani took the steel and shipped it out of the country so nobody could test the metal. Folks, how on earth does Rosie O'Donnell get back hired by ABC TV, which is owned by Disney? She trashes Christianity, she trashes America, she trashes our soldiers, she trashes the military. She believes that the government in some way was responsible for parts of those buildings falling down. Perfect candidate to come back to The View on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight. Nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Learn about our risk-free trial offer at prostaterevive.com/Jim.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. President Obama made a statement on the immigration crisis involving thousands of children held at a southern border today. Obama says Congress must act quickly to address the worsening situation and that he was open to Republican suggestions. The president met with Texas Governor Rick Perry, who says more National Guard troops should be sent to secure the border. Obama says this is only a temporary solution. And the United Nations addressed the growing conflict in the region today. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is asking both Israel and Hamas to find a peaceful resolution. He expressed concern that the situation could escalate even further and that both sides should respect international humanitarian law. Ban expressed concerns for civilian deaths in the conflict. Palestinian authorities say 85 have been killed this week. Meanwhile, air raid sirens sound off across Jerusalem, warning civilians of rocket fire. This is the second rocket attack on Israel's capital city since attacks from Gaza began on Tuesday. No injuries have been reported. Israel is defending itself from Hamas rocket attacks with its Iron Dome, a rocket defense system designed to intercept the missiles. An exiled Hamas leader is calling for comrades to intensify their fight. Khaled Michel says Palestinians should resist Israel. He also asked for international community to put more pressure on Israeli government. Hamas continues to fire long-range rockets deeper into Israel. Michel says our people will not surrender. And American intelligence operations are beginning to face opposition abroad. Germany is asking a top U.S. intelligence official to leave the country. The request stems from allegations that U.S. intelligence gathering has overstepped its boundaries. The National Security Agency has twice been accused of spying on German authorities. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says spying on allies is a waste of time. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. Hour number 3, Steve Malzberg Show. Patrick J. Buchanan will be sitting in the chair next to me. He has a great new book. It's all about the greatest comeback, how Richard Nixon rose from defeat to create the new majority. Sidney Powell, former DOJ attorney, she will be here to talk about the latest in the IRS scandal. Then Craig Shirley, best-selling author, and he will talk about the Newsmax cover story on Richard Nixon, Nixon Revisited, that he wrote for the July issue of Newsmax, the magazine. Roland Martin will be here. Give me 5. All that and more coming up on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Back, and we're going to be joined just momentarily by Patrick J. Buchanan. So great to have him walking around the studio outside, signing autographs like a real celebrity, which of course Pat is. And he writes about Richard Nixon. And in this hour, we'll also talk to Craig Shirley, as I mentioned, who wrote a cover story, the cover story for Newsmax, the magazine, July issue, with Richard Nixon, of course, on the cover. So lots to learn from the Newsmax story by Craig Shirley and from the book by Pat Buchanan, which really talks about how defeat turned into success for Richard Nixon. Let's watch this from Richard Nixon.
The greatest honor history can bestow is the title of peacemaker. This honor now beckons America, the chance to help lead the world at last out of the valley of turmoil and onto that high ground of peace that man has dreamed of since the dawn of civilization. If we succeed, generations to come will say of us now living that we mastered our moment, that we helped make the world safe for mankind. This is our summons to greatness.
All right, 1969, Richard Nixon, inaugural address, and joining us now is the man who has written the book, as they say, quite literally.
Accountable for the fact.
Well, we'll let that go. A best-selling author, former Republican presidential candidate, and former senior advisor to Presidents Nixon, Ford, and Reagan. And the new book is The Greatest Comeback, How Richard Nixon Rose from Defeat to Create the New Majority. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Good to see you, Steve. I'm usually by telephone.
Yes.
In my basement.
And we won't ask what you're wearing in the basement. The PF Flyers, I think we once addressed the sneakers, you and I.
Okay, right.
Keds, PF Flyers, whatever we were talking about.
Right.
But okay.
Converse All-Stars, I think.
Converse All-Stars, and I brought up the PF Flyers and the
Right.
Keds. Anyway, did Richard Nixon wear sneakers?
I know he didn't. Richard Nixon wore Florsheim shoes even on the beach. Haven't you seen the photographs of Nixon walking on the beach? It's in coat and tie and the Florsheim shoes.
Kind of awkward, I guess. Yeah, kind of a strict dress code. All right, so congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And a wonderful piece of work. No surprise there. What were you trying to get across? Because when, public perception of Richard Nixon, I think in that latest poll, Quinnipiac, where Obama ranked as the worst since World War II, of course, Nixon was right above him. So how do you
Nixon
change
was right
people's...
below him. Nixon was third. I think Carter was second. It was Obama, Carter, Nixon.
Yeah.
Nixon was down to 15. We're moving on up here.
Yeah, well, how do you change that perception?
I can't change that perception. People, I mean, looking back on it, that's 50 years ago now. People say Nixon, they say China, the opening to China, and they say Watergate. And what happened to Watergate? Well, they were all thugging or did something or did. So people understand it. This book, though, The Greatest Comeback, doesn't even deal with the Nixon presidency, and the Watergate was at the tail end of a 5-year, 6-year presidency. This deals with the years from 1964, basically when Goldwater went down to defeat. Nixon had been defeated by Kennedy narrowly, routed in California, said goodbye and good luck, you're not going to have me to kick around anymore. Comes to New York, goes down to Wall Street, practices law, Goldwater loses, and I show up there and I say, look, if you're going to run in 68, and I think we can put this together, I'd like to get aboard early. So, Steve, I was the very first one, other than Rosemary Woods, who was in there, who joined with Richard Nixon, and the only one up until mid-1967. And here's someone who is plotting to be the President of the United States, nobody in there, and how he did it, to come back from defeat and humiliation and the routing of his party and splintering of his party, and then to maneuver through 1968 when you got Tet Offensive, the day we announced. You got the massacre in Way. You got Gene McCarthy wounding the president, Bobby Kennedy jumping on the president, President quitting. 4 days later, Dr. King is murdered in Memphis, 100 cities up in flames. And you got Bobby Kennedy shot when he wins California. And then I was at the Democratic Convention, if you read in there, at the Comrade Hilton with Norman Mailer as a thing came apart. How did Nixon, this guy from the 50s, who's not charismatic, who's indeed intelligent, clever and everything, how did he maneuver through all this violence and war to be taken an oath as President of the United States in 1969? And that's the story.
And in some way, some odd way, did all the chaos that you just described help in that effort?
It did indeed, because Nixon, the crime was rising, the riots broken out, civil rights revolution was basically breaking apart into these riots and disorders. Students were, violent, on the campuses. Columbia blew up, anti-war demonstrations, and Nixon was sort of representative of the middle America, what he came to call, and it's a phrase that I gave him, the silent majority. And he would say in 1969, look, they're trying to break me the way they broke Lyndon Johnson. Will the great silent majority stand behind me for peace with honor?
Yeah, no, it is an amazing story. Let me take it further though, and then let me jump ahead. The impeachment of Richard Nixon. People don't understand what were in those articles of impeachment, do they?
No, they don't. In the first article, I believe, was constituted. The second article was Nixon and people in Nixon's White House called the IRS and suggested they audit someone, and the IRS didn't do it.
Right.
But they said just the idea that you wanted to harass people. Look what they did to these 100 little Tea Party groups, ripped them to bits.
How does that compare to? What would Nixon say if he saw what was going on today, do you think?
Well, I think he would be stunned at what they did and Obama got away with. The only reason, there's a number of reasons Obama's not in trouble for it, they haven't brought it into the White House. And Obama, in a lot just Benghazi, I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was a video.
Right.
And
he doesn't know anything.
I don't know anything. I'm clueless.
Yeah, I just saw it on CNN like everyone else.
How do you indict a clueless guy?
Good question. Let's another fiasco I want to get your opinion on is what's going on in Iraq. We just had our defense secretary say, as others have said, that the ISIS is not only a threat to our interests, to the region, but a threat directly to the United States, the homeland, because of the passports they have, because of the Westerners that are involved. I know you're not a hands-on guy when it comes to that region. You think it's best, in many cases, most cases, left well enough alone or bad enough alone.
Right.
What should we do here, since they pose a direct threat, according to our Defense Secretary, to our homeland?
Well, obviously, we've got to, frankly, our security guys have done a magnificent job since 9/11. They've broken a number of these, these agents who are over here trying to kill us, and they've broken up a number of cells and things. But with that, the first question is, what do we not do? Look, the Iraqi army we left behind with $25 billion worth of equipment is not going to defend its own city of Mosul.
Yeah, they ran.
You're not sending American kids over there to get the city back for them. Secondly, look where ISIS is located. It's northern Syria and northwestern Iraq. Right next door is Turkey. Turkey's been letting these characters into the country. The number of the Gulf states have been arming these Sunnis and helping them out. And I would say, as Americans, look, if you Turks want to go in there and clean up the problem, which is on your southern border like Mexico's on ours, we will back you up. But we're not sending in American boys to fight and win you guys wars when you've been collaborating with these people. But if you want to change your mind and go after them, we will back you up. But we're not sending troops anymore.
All right, along the lines of Iraq, I want you to hear, this will be cut 57. I had recently on the show Richard Pearl, to the topic of the term neocon came up.
Neoconservatives?
Right, and I want you to watch what he had to say. Do you believe there's any kind of, do you believe that neocon is a code word of sorts?
Oh yes, it's often used to describe Jewish Americans. Because as it happens, some of the original thinkers whose ideas have now been characterized by this general term neoconservative were in fact Jewish. And it often carries conspiratorial tones on the part of people who throw the term around.
Do you believe Pat Buchanan fits that description as someone who throws it around and uses that connotation purposely?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
and he's done this for a long time.
You want to respond to that?
Sure. For neoconservative, first, most Jewish folks are not neoconservatives. They're a very small, self-identified group whose godfathers were Norman Podhoretz and Irving Kristol, and who claim to be the co-architects, along with the Bush-Cheney folks, of the war in Iraq. And Richard Pearl, my old friend who I was at Reykjavik with, he was one of those folks. They've self-identified as neoconservatives. I'm called a paleoconservative, which translates Latin old conservatives. Neoconservatives were the new conservatives. It's a commonly used term. And
so there's no Jewish connotation or code word as far as you're concerned?
There's no doubt about it that the majority of neoconservatives who argued for war, not a majority certainly, but at least a goodly number, but there's neoconservatives. Bill Bennett's a neoconservative, Pat Moynihan's a neoconservative, Charles Wilson, and all these folks are neoconservative. But there's no doubt that, look, Richard Pearl was deeply pushing the war in Iraq. I believe he was co-author of that PNAC document in the 1990s. They were pushing for a war on Iraq then. And the fact, I think some of these folks are running away from what they have done. They don't like to be identified with what they did.
Quickly, the border crisis. The president playing pool and drinking beer in Colorado, 200 miles from the border now, Mexico. He won't go. What's your take on this whole thing?
Well, I was communications director for the Great Communicator, and if I were communications director in the White House, I would say put down the beer and put down the pool cue. And I know your original decision, sir, but we better get down to that border because the American people believe it's a crisis, and it is a crisis, and you have said so. And why are you not down there explaining the necessity for your $4 billion program by showing the American people what's going on and saying what you're going to do? Why are you running away from the border?
He doesn't want a photo op, he says.
He doesn't. I mean, why?
He doesn't want theater.
Well, he's got a photo op playing, Minnesota Fats over there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pat, great to see you, sir.
Pleasure.
Thank you
Good
very
to see
much.
you.
The book, The Greatest Comeback: How Richard Nixon Rose from Defeat to Create the New Majority. Patrick J. Buchanan, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, we'll be joined by former DOJ attorney Sidney Powell for the latest on the IRS scandal on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, you have to be exercising. You're really you just don't want to tell us what you're doing. I was like, no, I don't have time to go to a gym. I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately.
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
If you're one of the 15 million Americans with food allergies, you might feel anxious about dining out, but you don't have to be. Visit safefair.org for more information and resources to help you enjoy a safer restaurant experience.
A public service message from Food Allergy Research and Education.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
You told us on May you were going to give us all of Lois Lerner's emails, and you learned in February that this crashed.
I did not learn in February it was a crash, and we told you on Monday.
I'm not asking you a question. I'm just making a statement.
My apologies.
You are the Internal Revenue Service. You can reach into the lives of hardworking taxpayers, and with a phone call, an email, or a letter, you can turn their lives upside down. You asked taxpayers to hang on to 7 years of their personal tax information in case they're ever audited, and you can't keep 6 months worth of employee emails?
All right, folks, who will ever forget that? And we need to keep focusing on the IRS scandal in the face of everything else that's going on, and it's kind of hard to do, but we're going to do it right now. Sidney Powell, former DOJ attorney and author of Licensed to Lie, joins us. Great to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Steve. It's so nice to be here.
All right, so it turns out that Lois Lerner, who took the Fifth, and then after she made a statement, and that's a point of contention, and her lawyer wants to cut a deal, etc., Lois Lerner actually did not only print out some emails after all, but she also had an email exchange and was very worried about this system, this internal system called the Office Communication Server, and inquired of another employee whether or not those emails that they send over that system, over that server, get saved automatically or not. And the advice to her was treat it as if they do. And she said perfect. And she warned employees reportedly not to say too much because these emails could be looked at. And she was worried if Congress would look at them. I mean, does this stink or what?
Yes, it smells very bad.
So what's going on here? I mean, let's first talk about this this concern that Lois Lerner had as a former DOJ official. How normal is this?
It's only normal if you're trying to avoid putting something in writing that might be incriminating. I think obviously they're trying to hide something or they would have been forthcoming with all of it immediately. I can't imagine any other reason for this mysterious and sudden loss from not just one computer, not just hers, but 6 others.
All involved in the same aspect of the case.
All involved in the same aspect. I know that some people think technology can have a glitch like that, and I guess it's possible.
Very targeted glitch, right?
Yeah, a very specific glitch for the specific emails.
Maybe we'll call it a smart glitch.
Yeah, that's a good one. That relates to the time of that might implicate the White House in the scandal. We know there's a lot of foot traffic between the White House and IRS during the same time frame. So.
I mean, again, she took the fifth, but if there were to be a legal case against her, she's been held in contempt of Congress. But if the Department of Justice was going to prosecute Lois Lerner, and I mean, let's face it, they're not. How damning is this conversation, this concern over this server, and the advice she got and the response she gave, and then expressing her concern that somebody like Congress might have access to this?
It certainly implicates a consciousness of a problem and a concern. It could be evidence against her in a criminal proceeding. If they wanted to pursue it further, and if there were enough evidence to indict her, for example, they might encourage her to plead guilty to a lesser offense and then have her testify against others. And it might be that somebody's got those emails somewhere.
Well, that's another thing, because part two of all this is that, according to the Daily Caller, Lois Lerner did print out some, quote-unquote, some emails. After all, this is after Billy Taylor, her lawyer, initially claimed that she did not print out and file her emails as the Federal Records Act required her to do. So I don't know which is worse. Tell me about the lawyer, though. If the lawyer testified to that, and now it turns out she did, could he plead ignorance? This is what my client told me, and I didn't lie and commit perjury here?
Yes, he would not have been. I don't think he actually testified under oath.
Okay.
He probably made a statement as a representation on her behalf that could have been misinformed.
So so Lois Lerner, if she misinformed her attorney, and now they find that she did print out some emails, wouldn't that lead one with a skeptical mind to believe that, you know, there's probably a whole lot more that she printed out and a whole lot more access to these missing emails than we're being led to believe?
It looks bad either way. It looks bad both ways.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So let's get back to what I said before, and that was a declarative statement, but let me ask you in a question form. I'm feeling like a lawyer right now. DOJ, your former employer, do you see any chance in this lifetime that they will prosecute Lois Lerner?
I think it's unlikely in the next 2 years that will happen. I mean, I wish I could say I could trust Department of Justice to conduct a thorough investigation of it. I think it would take a special prosecutor to do that. Eric Holder's not going to appoint one of those. It might be that Judge Sullivan or Judge Walton, who are hearing cases today and tomorrow, might go that route if things develop according to need. They'll evaluate it as they go. I know Judge Sullivan just issued an order telling IRS they have 30 days to file a response under oath that fully accounts for the loss of the emails. And he will be scrutinizing that, I'm sure.
And how could a judge act? In other words, if he's not satisfied with the following of that order, what could he do?
He can actually appoint a special prosecutor.
He can?
Yes. That's what he did in the Ted Stevens case discussed in my book, License to Lie.
Yeah, no, you go in depth in that, how Ted Stevens was, you know, eventually after he lost his Senate seat, acquitted of the charges.
Yes.
It's a very scary situation. So, so Lois Lerner not off the hook yet. If a special prosecutor is appointed, that would take a lot of time. And then there's always a caveat in the end, though. No matter what a special prosecutor, if one is appointed, would find, and no matter what legal culpability Lois Lerner or others might be held to, there's always an outgoing president after a second term that could say, pardon. Correct?
Oh, yeah, that's always a possibility, too. There's a lot to still be seen in this saga as it unfolds.
It does, you know, it does really make the average American think. I think this one resonates because it is the IRS, because of what Paul Ryan said in that bite that we started with, and because of the fact that you know, they're smelling it. They're smelling the same smell we're smelling, and they're seeing that the Justice Department is doing nothing.
Yes, all Americans know that something's not right here, and they just want the truth. If the government would just be more forthcoming with everything, we can't identify a problem when they're hiding the truth.
Well,
you can't solve it if you can't see it.
And Licensed to Lie documents so many instances and injustices that you write about, and of course from your firsthand experience in the Justice Department. Thanks for coming back. It's always great to see you.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
No, my pleasure. This is Sidney Powell, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I have no confidence in the Justice Department. That's number one. But maybe a judge could actually get done what they won't do. All right, folks, we're coming back next with the author of the Newsmax July cover story, Craig Shirley. Don't miss this.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your body to get that slim, sexy look of your dreams, then you need to stop working out.
Say what?
And start rocking out with Rockin' Body, the fun new body makeover system that was created by fitness expert and insanity creator Shaun T.
Rockin' Body combines dance and fitness in a fun new way so you can achieve insane weight loss.
I lost 30 pounds dancing.
Now you can tone and tighten your abs, shrink and shape your hips and thighs, and lift and firm your booty, all while you're just dancing.
I've lost 33 pounds. I feel sexy.
And now, for a limited time, the complete $80 Rockin' Body system is 75% off. That's right, Rockin' Body is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Rockin' Body system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-718-8807 or order online at rockinbody.com. 1-800-718-8807. Call now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. House Speaker John Boehner blasted President Obama's request for addressing the immigration crisis today. Obama asked Congress for $3.7 billion to fund overwhelmed detention centers earlier this week. Boehner says he's unwilling to give the president what he calls a blank check. He adds Obama's policies are to blame for the crisis. And the United Kingdom could see similar snooping in their own country. British Prime Minister David Cameron announced his government is fast-tracking new measures to give more surveillance powers to police and spy agencies. Cameron says the emergency legislation is needed to ensure national security and fight crime. The move is strongly opposed by privacy rights activists. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back. Joining us now is presidential historian, best-selling author, and the author also of the cover story in Newsmax, the magazine, which I am holding up here for, I'll cover my face, holding up here for all to see. with Richard Nixon on the cover, the July issue. And we welcome in Craig Shirley. Craig, great to talk to you, sir.
Likewise, Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, of course, the cover story, Nixon Revisited 40 years later. August 8th will be 40 years since the president resigned from his office. But in the story, a great piece, by the way, and you take us through a world where Richard Nixon had lost in 1968 instead of winning, and what the world would be like without the Nixon presidency.
Yes, yeah, it was. It's fun to do alternative history or what if and things like that. And of course, he won 1968. He only got, I think, 43% of the vote is only a plurality, and it came out to about 1 vote per precinct. He won by roughly the same margin in '68 that he lost to John Kennedy by in 1960. So it's very easy to imagine Hubert Humphrey, winning the presidency. Nixon going down to yet another defeat and basically fading into history, and how the world would be different today if Hubert Humphrey was elected president instead of Richard Nixon in 1968.
You also talk about the relentless media that Nixon had to deal with then, still has to deal with to a great extent today. But they say that as time goes by, presidents are judged differently. The complaint from Obama supporters to that Quinnipiac poll that's out the other day, where Obama's ranked the least attractive president since World War II, they say, well, every president who's in office, wait till he gets out. How has history...
Well, that's not true. Actually, Ronald Reagan left the presidency in January of 1989.
And he was at the top. Yeah,
he was at approval rating at anywhere between 60 and 78%.
And you wrote the books on Reagan, too, with the Rendezvous with Destiny and Reagan's Revolution. But how has the media treatment and the historical treatment of Nixon progressed over the years, do you believe?
I don't think, Steve, that I think historians are taking a second look at him, but the media treatment is that he has become so identified as this figure of contempt. And every depiction of him, whether it's Nixon Frost or whether it's All the President's Men, in plays and in song and in, Four Dead in Ohio and Nixon's Coming and all those other things, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, is that there's been I hate to say conspiracy on the grassy knoll, but there's been a conspiracy to basically grind Nixon's legacy in the ground. Now, you can question it, as a liberal or as a conservative, what type of president he was, and the activist presidency and things like that. But the fact remains is that his 5 years in the White House were extremely significant years, and even his policy on Vietnamization. When he became president in 1968, there were 500,000 troops in Southeast Asia. By the time he left, 1974, there were 25,000 troops.
Right. I don't want to leave, Craig, because we only have a minute left. Just give the reader just a little tease. Give us in 45 seconds here one aspect of what it would be like if Richard Nixon had lost.
What if Richard Nixon lost in 1968?
Yeah.
We would have been in Vietnam a lot longer, I think, because he would have continued the policies of Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy, and that would have and Ronald Reagan might well have been nominated in 1976 instead of 1980. But just a way to characterize it as a last thought is that, the Constitution says high crimes and misdemeanors. I've come to the conclusion what Nixon was guilty of were low crimes and high misdemeanors, which means that he shouldn't have been driven from office.
Very interesting. Craig Shirley, presidential historian, and the piece Nixon Revisited 40 Years Later. Newsmax, the magazine, the July issue, folks. Get it and read it. And educate yourself. It is a great read and written in a very brilliant fashion. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve, very much.
My pleasure. All right, folks, we're coming back, and when we do, we're going to go. We're going to be joined by the host of News One Now, Roland Martin. But first, it's time for America's Moment. Don't go away.
January 15th, 1929 was a chilly day in Atlanta, Georgia, when a family gathered to welcome into this world a new life, and with it, a new hope for America. 2 years after his birth, his father, Michael King, changed his name to Martin Luther King, and then changed his son's name to Martin Luther King, Jr. Throughout his 39 years, he instilled in Americans a new spirit of justice and freedom based on equality instead of status, and character instead of race. He waged a nonviolent war on racial segregation, with appearances that radiated with an energy that transcended all races, all faiths, and people of all ages, with words that still resonate today.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
He spoke to us of his dreams and his beliefs that justice too long delayed is justice denied. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh yes, and that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you think the worst of Obamacare is behind us, think again. Soon, its new rules will affect every business, every insured person, and every Medicare recipient. That's why you need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's easy to read, the fastest way for you to understand this law. The Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the tips, loopholes, and strategies you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need to get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, and already more than 500,000 Americans have gotten their copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. The Obamacare Survival Guide is at bookstores everywhere, or get Newsmax's $4.95 special offer and save $15 off the cover price. Just go online now or call us today.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic. Some will never return. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
We can find $4 billion for those children, and we should. We can find $2 billion for Chicago. The more children involved, and more have been killed, and more have been shot.
The killings and the shootings continue to mount. Joining us now is a host of News One Now on TV One, former CNN political analyst Roland Martin. And Roland, great to talk to you again, sir. Your piece in the at the Daily Beast about the violence in Chicago and what needs to be done to stop it. You say bring the National Guard.
Yes, in fact, it's pretty interesting when I look at this the reaction from a lot of progressive whites and African Americans who are angry at me. They're on Twitter and all over the place. What's interesting is I've interviewed retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore several times on this topic dating back to September 2013. He's been doing the exact same thing. He went to Chicago saying the same thing. This is the guy, of course, who got New Orleans in order after Hurricane Katrina, as President Bush said, we needed a John Wayne. That was him. And what's interesting is all these folks, oh my God, how did that work out in the 60s? They clearly didn't even read what I said. What Honore said, and which I agree with, he said you utilize the Guard to alleviate other type of acts, duties that the police are doing. He said, like, duties downtown, and he said what you do is, he said you need the police patrolling the streets, you need checkpoints established. He said you go after the cartels, you go after the folks who are supplying the drugs and the guns, He said that's a law enforcement strategy. The issue that you're dealing with in Chicago is a multifaceted one. It is not one thing, but you do have to get control of. Who said we need to reopen community centers and parks. Well, here's the deal. No parent is going to send their kid to the park out of fear they're going to get shot.
Oh, well,
so in order to confront the problem, you do have to say what is the short-term issue, what's the mid-term, what's the long-term.
No, I have no problem with sending the National Guard, and you know, they asked that question on the news clip we saw at the top. You know, what is the cause? Is it A, B, C, D? And as you said, it's probably A, B, C, D, and E to boot.
Precisely.
But here's one thing. Where are you on tough gun legislation? I heard Dick Durbin on the floor of the Senate the other day alluding to 15 years in prison for those who, I think it was if you sell a gun to someone who uses it in a crime. But how about something that was taken out of the crime bill back in the 90s, in the Clinton years, and that was like if you use a gun in the commission of a crime, just show it. You don't have to fire it. Mandatory 5 years in prison. If you fire it, mandatory 10 years. And if you shoot someone, mandatory 20 years, depending on how bad you hurt them. No, you don't like that? Why?
No, the reason I don't like mandatories because, one, you look at the case, what just happened, you look at Marissa Alexander in Florida, but you had mandatory minimums. The Florida legislature changed that law recently, saying that, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense if you fire a warning shot, you should get a mandatory minimum. That's the problem. So even when you say you just flash it, so I'm going to use her as an example. She was involved in an altercation with her husband, and in the altercation, she fires a warning shot into the ceiling. It was a mandatory, so I got a problem with
No, I understand that, and that was a terrible situation, and thancantfully it was rectified. But I'm talking about committing a crime. I'm talking about with the intent to commit a crime.
Here's the deal. The issue with mandatory is there's no leeway whatsoever. Judges have no discretion whatsoever. You cannot factor in any number of things. And so that's the issue that I have with mandatory.
All right, how about this? If you're convicted, of the crime, and you use the gun in the commission of the crime, whether you fired it or not.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. You have existing laws there. Now, I say you certainly look at those. I've always made it clear that prisons are for non-violent offenders, and people who are violent offenders do need to pay the price for their crime. But the issue is, so again, that's what you have. The problem that I have in Chicago is you have city leaders there who act as if there's only one thing you focus on as opposed to a variety of things. And I got progressives and liberals who are mad at me. Oh, my God, you're asking for martial law, which is nonsense. I'm not. Who are saying, oh, you got to do this, that, and the other. They're also even in denial. They're saying, well, you close the schools. You know what, Steve? I live in Chicago. You know, it hit me one day. I was driving in the morning, and I went, where are the school buses? So I had the then school board president on my radio show. I said, let me ask you a question. Where are the school buses in Chicago? Well, the school buses, they cut the school buses years ago because of cost. One of the problems, Steve, is that you have kids who literally cross gang areas because you don't have school busing. So they have to either ride city buses, which frankly anybody gets on them. When I rode school buses, I was frankly in a safe environment. I got from my home across town to the school and back. That's one of the things, so that's why they created these state passages trying to protect kids to do on the first week of school. That's one of those small things that nobody thinks about and also has an impact in terms of how people are affected by violence.
Let me ask you another question. I heard the police chief on a CBS News report about a year ago when a reporter rode with the cops and they found this guy with a gun and and they arrested him, and then the police chief said this guy was arrested on a gun charge and convicted of a gun crime, spent a couple of years in prison. He was let out simply because there's no space to put these people in jail. So whether the sentences are mandatory or not mandatory, they're letting out people who are convicted of gun crimes and they're repeat offenders.
But Steve, one of the reasons there's no space is because we've got our jails that are filled with too many nonviolent offenders. We are sitting here throwing people in jail for a variety of reasons, people in jail who have drug issues. You even have Republican governors across the country, thank God. In fact, and I've said this before, you have Republican governors who, frankly, are more compassionate in dealing with the issue of this mass incarceration than some Democratic governors who are scared to be called weak on crime. Republican governors are saying, hey, this is costing us a ridiculous amount of money to be housing people in jails who are nonviolent offenders. That's one of the problems. So guess what? If you sit here and say, you know what, we're not going to be just housing everybody in jail, let's examine that, but let's actually keep jail for the people who are these violent offenders, you're not going to have that problem.
Well, I mean, there's a variety of crimes that are nonviolent, and you got to keep people in jail. It's not all drug crime.
Well, but there's a difference between having somebody in jail for 40 years versus 10 or 15 or whatever it is. But there are a number of nonviolent offenders, and the numerous studies have been done. I've talked to Governor Kasich about it in Ohio. I've talked about it with Mayor Mitchell Andrew in New Orleans. I talked about it with different people across the country, and they've said that's part of the issue. The jail should be for the folks who we absolutely need off the streets, as opposed to anybody.
All right, let me let you hear from John Boehner today, talking about the problem at the border and the president's refusal to go there. Here's what he had to say. All right, well, what he said was that the president needs to take responsibility. He never takes responsibility for anything. What do you make of the fact that the president refuses to go to the border? And to boot, he made sure he had a photo op, which he says he doesn't want at the border, when he was playing pool and drinking beer with the governor of Colorado.
First of all, from a White House standpoint, that was stupid and idiotic to even have a Photoshop of him shooting pool, drinking beer. That was just dumb. Okay, so that was just dumb. But here's the deal. Okay, so Speaker Boehner and others want the president to go to the border. To do what?
Well, then why does he go anywhere? Why does he go to any natural disaster?
No. Here's the deal. I'm asking the
I'll tell you what he should do at the border. I'll tell you exactly what. You go to the border, you stand there with the kids in the background, and you say, this is what lies in store for your kids in Central America, you parents, if you send them here. Don't send them here. You use the bully pulpit that will be repeated all over the world over and over again.
So the president can actually say that anywhere. You know what? Here's the deal, Steve. I don't waste my time on useless discussions. And if you have people in D.C., you got Speaker John Boehner, if you're spending your time literally talking about who needs to go to the border as opposed to how do you solve the problem, that's really, for me, a waste of a conversation.
Well, Democrats are having that same conversation. It's not just John Boehner.
And they also, and it's the same thing. Here's what I would say to any member
we got a minute. We got a minute, so go ahead. Yeah.
There's no problem. Who's wasting time? You know what? Spend more time doing your job as opposed to going home, as opposed to, so we got press releases and the media appearances on, he needs to go to the border. Fix the issue, members of Congress, as opposed to issuing more press releases. How's that?
All right, but the president needed to land in New Orleans and not just see from the plane, right? That was Bush. He had to go.
No, I'm sorry. First of all, who said that?
Oh, no, the whole left said it. The whole left. You don't remember the Katrina moment? The Katrina moment?
I don't speak for the left.
I know, but you said who said that? I'm telling you. Hey, Roland, I got 5 seconds. I gotta go. Thanks for coming on. We'll speak to you soon. Roland Martin, folks. Up next, Gimme 5. Don't go away on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belvique. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
If you are age 85 or younger,
call 800-981-7668
to learn more about the Senior Care Plan from Senior Life Insurance Company. The average funeral now costs over $7,500, but the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay your debt. The Senior Care Plan will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and other final expenses. There is no medical exam, and you'll have lifetime coverage. Your rates will never increase, your benefits will never decrease, and your plan cannot be canceled by Senior Life. To receive free information about the Senior Care Plan and its benefits,
call 800-981-7668.
Also receive information about a free prescription discount card by calling now. You have no obligation. Operators are standing by. Call now.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
I've got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
These are kids. Let's not forget they're kids.
Exactly.
And I just want to add one thing here before I go to break, and that is this. For any of you out there who are about to tweet me
You don't open your borders and let everybody in and let kids who are being coached as to what to say so that they could stay here legally or at least get a hearing here legally. You don't allow that to continue. Welcome to Gimme 5. The networks went nuts yesterday, those on the left like Ashley Banfield, and of course those on MSNBC.
The real issue is not whether or not the president will go to the border for a photo op. The real issue is that Republicans are standing in the way of meaningful immigration reform and have been for decades now. And, you know, it's an interesting issue, actually, for the GOP because they are the party of business, giving business whatever they want. We have the farming, the restaurant, and the farming communities are saying, we want this done. And the hotel business community, we want this done. But they've been also successful for decades using the culture wars, especially demonizing immigrants. And those two things don't really mesh in one party.
No, you know, it's not about demonizing immigrants, Toure. It's about a nation of laws and laws that must be followed. And, of course, these are illegal immigrants compared to my ancestors, my grandparents, who came here legally as immigrants. But don't confuse MSNBC and the left with the distinction because they don't want to hear it. Then there was Michael Eric Dyson going nuts, accusing Sarah Palin of treason for saying the president should be impeached.
Anyone interested in a border visit is interested in pumping the brakes. The president is acutely aware of the dire situation facing the children and their families crossing into the United States, as evidenced by his tireless effort to help them. The president's push towards positive and crucial change was met with treasonous accusations.
Treasonous accusations. Treason. Here's more.
The tipping point in this drive towards impeachment for me has been the illegal immigration issue, the crisis created by Obama. Impeachment is a message that has to be sent to our president that we're not going to put up with this lawlessness.
All right. I don't know. What was treasonous about that, ladies and gentlemen? Could you figure it out? You want more nuttiness from the left? Here's CNN pushing a U.S. Congressman, Brooke Baldwin, pushing Jeff Denham to, well, you'll see.
Let me ask you right off the bat, is it even fair to compare this to Katrina? You think about the fact that hundreds of people lost their lives, their homes, their livelihoods. Is this a fair assessment?
Look, this notion of he should be going to the border. Look, if I were this president, I would be going to certainly visit these camps where the kids are being housed and the humanitarian conditions. But the reason to not visit the border is very obvious to me. This is not a border crisis. These kids are coming to the border, they're getting stopped, the border's working. Republicans are trying to turn this into a narrative of, oh, the border isn't working, right? We have a crisis. The immigration policies aren't working.
All right, one more from the hysterical left.
So in terms of the politics and where you're standing and joining me, you know, it's been more than a year, you know this, since the Senate passed that comprehensive immigration overhaul. It has been held up in the House by your Republican colleagues. And I know that you are in this unique position, Congressman, because you are among this handful of House Republicans who want to act on immigration reform this year. How will you convince your colleagues on this issue and this issue happening this year?
All right. You know, it's not incumbent upon the congressman to do that. He's not going to convince his colleagues. Passing comprehensive immigration reform is not going to solve the problem when you have a president who doesn't enforce existing law. Brooke, on the Steve Malzberg Show.